Welcome to ESPAS 2018, here in Brussels, Martin REES, member of the House of Lords, UK Astronomer Royal, and the director of the Centre for the Study of Existential Risk at the University of Cambridge. Today in your speech, you mentioned two things, not foresight, but predicting, and you said there are two things we can predict. One is that the world will be much more crowded, and the second one you said is for sure that the world will get much more warmer. Listening to this, I thought of one thing, the most recent report of the IPCC, and there they focus on rising CO2 levels and global warming, amongst others. How do you see the impact of geoengineering, or have you taken geoengineering into account, looking into the future and global warming?
We all feel we would never need geoengineering. My recipe is that we should forge ahead with much more powerful research and development into all kinds of clean energy so that it becomes more advanced, the cost comes down, and countries like India can leapfrog directly to clean energy and not build coal-fired power stations. But we need urgency if we are to meet the targets from the IPCC. If in fact we don't meet those targets in the next 20 years, and if it's clear the temperature is rising dangerously fast, then there will, I'm sure, be pressure for what's called geoengineering. This is to put some materials in the upper atmosphere to block out some sunlight or to change the climate in other ways. This could be done, but I think it will be dangerous because we would not know the consequences of this, and it's just staving off the time when we need to do something because the CO2 will be rising, the oceans become more acidic, etc. And also the only people who would benefit are the lawyers, because if different nations can litigate about the weather, it's a bonanza for lawyers, but not for anyone else. So I hope we never need geoengineering, although it's technically feasible, and it's good to have some sort of research into it as a last resort, but let's hope we never need it.
Interesting. I see there's lots of discussions going around about it, that's why I had to pose that question. For my last point to conclude today's short session, I would love to know what your key takeaway is if you think of ESPAS 2018 and a fast-changing world.
Yes. Well, let me talk about space, which is my special area. I think space is an arena where robots and miniaturization are very important. We depend on space every day for sat-nav, for environmental monitoring and for communications. And I think robots will soon be manufacturing things in space, but the case for sending people into space is getting weaker all the time as the robots get better. So if I was an American, I wouldn't support their manned space program, and I hope the European Space Agency doesn't have a big manned space program. But I think we should cheer on private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin in the United States, which are trying to send people into space, because they can take higher risks than a Western government can impose on civilian astronauts. And so they will be able to send thrill-seeking adventurers, and I hope there will be a colony of people on Mars who will be sent by private companies. But it's a dangerous delusion to think that we can have mass emigration to Mars. There's no planet B for ordinary risk-averse people.
Thank you, Martin REES, for this interview.